Okay, we'll call this meeting to order. And this is the Big Bear Area Regional Wastewater Meeting of March 4th. And could we please have the Pledge of Allegiance, Director Eric?
Please rising. Repeat after me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I really was happy to start the count.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, take a vote.
Vice Chair Eric,
Aye.
Director Russo,
Aye.
Chair Segovia,
Aye.
Vice Chair Walsh,
Aye.
and Chair Miller.
Aye. Might need to correct the minutes. I wasn't vice chair.
Did I say Vice Chair Eric again? Oh, I will, I'll correct it.
Okay, public forum. Public testimony is permitted at this time on the following section of the agenda. Presentation and introduction and any other matters within the agency's subject matter jurisdiction that are not included on the posted agenda. If you are unsure whether your public testimony falls within the subject matter jurisdiction or which agenda item it pertains to, please contact the board secretary before the meeting. Each speaker is allotted a maximum of 3 minutes to address the governing board during this public forum. Public testimony on non-agenda items shall be limited to 30 minutes for all speakers. Please note that state law prohibits the agency from taking action on matters not listed on the posted agenda. The governing board requests the public testimony focus specifically on BARWA business. The chair by majority vote may waive these time limitations and may rule out of order testimony that is unduly repetitious or irrelevant. Do we have public comment?
Daniel?
Of course. Good to see you all. Sir Lawrence, last week, I asked you about the paperwork here from the water department or BARA. And you said that you guys had nothing to do with it, but yet I keep getting all this paperwork that is like yours. All this could be done in 1 page. If you want to do all your pretty work, that's fine, but it's hard to download this without paying a lot of money. I've spent several $1,000s, probably more, on just trying to download paperwork. I can't do it on my copy machines because it costs a ton and then I run out of ink. So I have to go to Mama Bears now. You know, it's wonderful that it looks pretty, it looks like something I got in 1st grade. But can't you do it to where it doesn't cost a ton of money? Or at least, you know, you can give us these when we're here, but have the paperwork. All it is trickery, just like what we do over at Big Bear Lake. Anything that slows people down. You think somebody that doesn't know what the hell's going on is gonna go and make an extra effort to print this out when it costs a ton of money? And I bend over backwards to get the paperwork to try to read in advance of what's going on. It's just like at Big Bear Lake last meeting. They had bullet points up on the screen. And I'm looking through my agenda and I don't have those bullet points. So then I have to, you know, sometimes download 150 pages. And then I go there and they've got all the information that would have been helpful to me. And I just think, you know, you're gonna spend all this money, why don't you make it to where it's usable, where people can come in and know what's going on? Yeah, I see a lot of abbreviations or you know, the what's it called, like NASA and different things. And there's like 100 of them. Can't even put something in parentheses, I just had 3 people, so, to know what's going on. And when somebody doesn't, I've been coming to these meetings now for almost 2.5 years. And it's still very difficult for the layman that doesn't get paid or come every week. Is that my bill?
That's your bell.
I just got started.
Thank you, Dan.
Wait, it says right here, 3 minutes.
Acronyms, by the way.
Acronyms. I just want to practice. Like,
Yeah, no, I get it. That's why I wanted to give you the word.
Tom?
I don't even know what I'm gonna say now. I'm talking with Rick and everybody else, and I totally don't even know anything. Of course. All right, first thing I would like to say is that, I would like to thank CSD and each and every one of the members of them for constantly being against this project. Because I believe that the project is not really gonna do anything for us other than more governmental control. We're gonna be spending billions of dollars to gain 2 to 4 inches of. We're not gonna spend millions of dollars.
No, the mic's not on, sorry.
So I like this, well, good. Well,
She just asked if the mic was on. I wasn't saying, I'm sorry.
so now I start.
Well, we can hear you.
Okay, well, now my 3 minutes starts good, because the agenda that you guys do make really does kind of suck, because by the time you get through 800 pages, everybody's falling asleep or gone, or nobody even really understands what you're doing anyway. So you're gonna pass whatever you want to pass. Same thing with the city council. The agenda is this thing. There's 3 people there, and 3 people are not gonna stay there to the end of the agenda, and then you pass anything that you want to pass anyway, and nobody's even against it. It just goes. You just pass it. Anything that is major like this, we need to have a vote. The valley needs to have a vote. There's 26,000 people in this valley, and 3 or 4, 5 city council members decide on the entire valley, period. It's not us. We don't all get a vote. We don't all get to say so. We just don't. So we need to be able to get to the point of where everybody has a vote. The administrative incorporated law that we've had for the last 150 some years that they have illegally done doesn't happen anymore. We are living under a republic now. Trump signed under a republic. We're a republic. We are not a incorporated law, period. We have all been indoctrinated into believing that this incorporated law is our law, and it's not our law. Our law is the United States for America, for us. Anyway, the United States Constitution for America, period. If you guys still decide that you're gonna come on to this program you're gonna do, it's still the biggest boondoggle that's ever happened. It's gonna cost us millions of dollars. I'm not saying how much on that, because I don't really know how much. I know that it's been underbid. Okay, but you have to understand that you work for us. You work for all of us. We don't work for you. Okay, we pay 100% of all of the federal finances and of all the federal money, of all of their revenue. We pay it. We the people, not you. You don't have to worry about, oh God, well now we have to come up with another $1 million. Well, let's just charge the CSD. Let's charge the TWP. It's not them. It's Barwell and it's our city council. Period.
Thank you, Tom.
Am I done?
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I didn't get to finish. I didn't get to start. Okay. Anyway, thank everybody. I apologize if I offend any of you. This is nothing personal. This is all about our government. And I do not want to see any more governmental control than they already have, period.
Thank you. Okay, moving on.
Moving on, so, thanks. So I just wanted to take this opportunity to present Kendi Segovia with her 1-year recognition pin from Barwa. She currently serving as our chair. and she sits on our administrative and replenish big bear committees. A lot has happened over the last year. Obviously, we've had a lot of activity, but you've made really solid decisions here, and we really appreciate your service to our agencies. So I wanted to present you with this pin, and thank you for your service.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on into budget presentation and discussion.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank everyone for being here today. Christine is gonna present a fiscally responsible balanced budget to you folks. So, please, I'm gonna turn this over to her, and if you have any questions, obviously, during the presentation, please don't hesitate to stop us and ask.
David just took my role starting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
conversation, so thank you for being here. And again, if you have any questions or want to discuss any items further, please feel free to stop me during the presentation. Okay. Next. Okay, today we're going to talk about the budget projections and proposal. We'll start with projected performance for fiscal year 25. Then propose new budget for fiscal year 26. And we'll end with the 5-year forecast for fiscal year 26 through 2030. We'll begin with the projected performance and changes to the budget. So at the beginning of the fiscal year, the governing board approved carryover appropriations of approximately 4.5 million. 4.4 of that is capital expenditures, and it includes the projects that are listed on this slide. 46,000 for operating expenses for the headworks and sludge building door replacements, miscellaneous electrical maintenance, and the quarterly HVAC service. Now, I did want to let you know, due to timing, this new appropriation slide does not include the appropriation that was approved last week. I didn't have time to change everything to add that, but it does include 35,000 for the Cactus Flats outfall line repair environmental and 50,000 for the capital improvement development plan. Let's move on to the financial summary.
Can I ask you a question? So
Yes.
where is the repair, are they covering the pipe again in the budget? You said it's not included?
It is included, the environmental part was included in the budget, it's included in here. So that's right here, this Cactus Flats outfall line, the
Okay.
35,000.
Okay.
Oh, there it is. The actual repair work itself is actually going to be, it is actually gonna be done by Southwest Gas. We're responsible for the environmental, and they're gonna be responsible for actual construction.
So our total cost is 30.
That's what I told them.
So what it didn't include was the appropriation, 157,000 for the rotor.
Okay.
That was approved last week. So this is a snapshot of the income statement comparison. As you can see, operating revenues are less than 1% different when comparing projected to budget. We'll talk about the other line items in the next slides. Operating expenses are projected to be 730,000 lower than budget, with significant variances in salaries and benefits of 85,000, sludge removal of 33,000, insurance expense of 30,000, and depreciation expense of 614,000. The salaries and benefits budget included an administrative position, but that position was not hired with the RVP plus. Sludge removal is budgeted based on removal of just under 5,000 tons, and we are projected to remove approximately 4,500 tons in fiscal year 25. For insurance expense, we received a workers' compensation insurance adjustment for longevity and a 7% incentive program and 5% multi-program discount. The budgeted depreciation included some of the RVB capital. With the RVB pause, these expenditures will be depreciated in future years. Non-operating and income expense is projected to be down about 2.4 million from budget, with the greatest variance in grant proceeds. Grant proceeds are driven by project expenditures. With the RVB pause, project expenditures are expected to come in much lower than was previously budgeted. So at the end of the year, the projected designated fund balance is expected to be 336,000 higher than the amended budget. And the variances that make up that is an increase in connection fees, lease revenue, interest income, and cash provided by operating activities. And RVB debt service coming in lower than expected. As you can see, we had 45 connections budgeted for fiscal year 25, and we're expected to end with 52. I'll go on to the fiscal year 26 proposed budget, but I do want to pause and see if anybody has any questions.
Just one question.
Yes.
How does the depreciation fall by 613,000?
Because we were expecting to have started RVB construction and start appreciating some of that, and with the
How
pause.
do you have some magic on getting rid of depreciation? Okay. Thank you.
It's not even real money, right?
It's real. I'm picky.
Okay, any more questions? So let's talk about the proposed budget for fiscal year 26. There's some items that impact the financial performance. One is that change in the capital improvement forecasting methodology. This methodology focuses on prioritization of capital improvements and addresses outdated project cost estimates. It assigns the likelihood of failure and consequence of failure score. And projects are assigned a priority based on this analysis and may be phased over multiple fiscal years. Fiscal year 26 proposed budget includes those priority 1 projects that have a higher likelihood of failure and consequence of failure. The RVB short-term finance principal repayment is due. In fiscal year 23, the governing board authorizes the agency to enter into a short-term loan in the amount of 3.4 million to pay costs associated with RVB. The loan required interest-only payments through November of 25, with a principal loan amount of 3.4 million plus accrued interest due in May of 26. The lump sum payment was anticipated to be paid in full by the WIFIA loan. With the RVB pause, the WIFIA loan process has also been paused. Repayment of this loan will come from reserves collected from RVB unless the WIFIA loan is executed. Let's go into the financial summary. Again, this is a snapshot of the projected 25 versus proposed budget, and we're going to go into further detail on the next slides. Let's talk about the operating budget. Operating revenues increased by 6% based on the proposed established rate increase. Operating expenses increased by 4%, and we'll talk about the major variances in the next slides. So this shows you the major variances all in one slide, and we're going to go into more detail. Salaries and wages increased by 6%, with a COLA of 2.6%. And those employees that have not reached the top of their pay scale are eligible for up to a 5% merit. The proposed administrative position has been removed as a result of the RVB pause. Benefits increased 10%. Per the actuarial valuation, retirement required contributions increased 15%. OPEB required contributions increased 5%. And medical premiums are expected to increase by 6%. So the COLA and uses the average annual change in CPI for all urban customers, and for 2024, the annual average was 2.6%. Sludge removal is budgeted based on hauling 5,000 tons. In fiscal year 25, again, we're projected to haul 4,500 tons, so that's a difference of 492 tons. And additionally, the hauling contract includes an annual CPI increase. Materials and supplies increase is primarily a result of the operating systems in desktop and laptop computers reaching end of life and no longer being supported. Continued use of this equipment would subject the agency to possible security threats within the IT infrastructure. Permits and fees increase as a result of an on-site assessment that is completed every 2 years to maintain the environmental laboratory accreditation, and an increase in the State Water Resources Board annual permit renewal fees. There are savings across several line items within repairs and replacements, with the most notable savings in mainline and other. Fiscal year 25 included hydro cleaning of sewer lines and the pulsar sludge blanket monitors for the clarifiers. Contractual services professional included a one-time appropriation for support of the capital improvement development plan. This is partially offset by the addition of the compensation study that is budgeted every third year and the OPEB actuarial that is budgeted every other year. We'll talk about capital expenditures. Fiscal year 26 proposed capital expenditures are approximately 1.9 million. And that includes the projects on this slide. Now, as you can see, Replenish Big Bear is budgeted at 253,000. With the Replenish Big Bear pause, it's expected that we will be carrying over a large portion to complete the, complete the final design and cost estimate. So we're proposing a 6% increase or $21.41. We are not proposing an increase in the RVB rate. This will give the agency time to complete the final design and cost estimate and give the governing board time to review those findings and consider next steps. So designated fund balance at the end of fiscal year 26 is expected to be 1.3 million lower than the projected fiscal year 25. And there's a few items that bring us to that number. First, the payment of the OPEB related liabilities. The goal of the agency has been to reduce its unfunded OPEB liability. The governing board approved a multi-year plan to reduce the liability by 200,000 a year for 5 years for a total of 1 million. Contributions were made in 2017, 18, and 20. Fiscal year 26 proposed budget includes a payment of 100,000, and we're going to propose that for the next few years. The reason for changing from the 200,000 to 100,000 is we feel that 100,000 will be more attainable for the agency, and we can meet that goal quicker.
Christine, quick question. So what did we get hit harder? I mean, what is the performance of California right now? It was the agency required to should be more this time around or less, or there's path.
The contributions have gone up every year, yes.
And the performance, the performance of the portfolio has gone down, right? So it's being,
No, as the portfolio goes down, our share goes up.
yes,
Right.
Yes, so in paying down our OPEB liability, that will help with that because it'll change our rate of return. It'll happen up here.
My concern is the way things are looking right now, so we're probably having not a very good portfolio year this year about two next budget, so I don't know how we project that.
we have our funded, later on, we have our funded position in the presentation. I think we have our funded position for them, no? Okay, well,
It
It just went down a little bit. It went down, off the top of my head, I think it went down 0.1%.
Okay.
yeah,
So it wasn't a large difference.
Projecting 6.8, actually like 5.8.
That was, yes, that was the rate of return. It came in at 5.8. But I believe
Catch up.
last year came in at much higher. I think it was 9.6%. But we don't see those effects for 2 years. So,
takes a
when-
while.
yeah, when the rate of return comes in, then 2 years later, we see those effects on our contributions.
Do you recall our funding position on the OPEB? Was it like 67% or something?
I think we went down to 66%.
Yeah, so it went down to 66%. Our funded position was like 67%, now it's 66% for OPEB. And then, we were 70-something% for the actual retirement fund, but.
Did we ever establish some percentage that the agency was trying to achieve? Were you trying to get to 70 or 80%?
90%.
90%.
Is the goal. Yeah, 90%, funded is a goal, and that's really because anything above 90. Market forces can push it over 100, and then you have excess money in the fund, and you don't really want to do that.
Right.
Right, so you stay about 90, and that's kind of our goal, is to get there.
Previously, the reason why we made the payments was because we got a better rate,
Yes,
and there was long-term savings. You see that. This investment, 100,000.
Yes.
We'll see savings as well.
yes, but again, it's
I know it's over the long
it's
run,
over the long haul, yes.
but
it's
as
a few
you,
years
as you
out.
ride up and down the market, sometimes it's not clear.
So the $100,000 will definitely help our funded position. However, with the market, depending on gains and losses, that could offset it. But
If our rate of return is 5.8. The $100,000, we paid 5.8% on that $100,000. We don't have that 100,000, and if we put it in there, and we save that 5.8%. Every dollar towards our unfunded liability reduces our unfunded liability by whatever rate of return that we're getting.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting to is that it's one of those figures that it's not like we have to fix something to plan.
No.
It's one of those ones we're trying to plan ahead for, because I think previously, at least 1 year, we decided not to put money towards the hotel. Because cash was tighter during that period of time.
Right.
And
So
so,
we had some unexpected repairs that that we were doing on the plan that we didn't expect, and so we decided just to not do it that year.
right, I think it's a good investment.
It was nice.
My point is that it's one of those things, it's a smart move to make, when we have the cash.
Exactly.
absolutely, and we generally wait until close to the end of the fiscal year to see where we stand. And we haven't made additional contributions since 2020. And I can't speak for before I was here, but it's because we've had other costs that we've had to pay for repairs and whatnot.
It's, decision on cash always is watching that to make that determination at the end of the fiscal year, whether we're gonna make that payment or not. Usually.
Yes.
Once the board authorizes it, we're still making that decision whether they're gonna do it or not because of the funded, cash positions. And make sure that we have enough cash on hand, that we're not having a shortage.
Cash provided by operating activities, just want to give you an idea what falls into that category. It's operating in income loss for borrower, which includes operating revenues, less operating expenses. The RDD income right now equals the RDD revenues based on the rates. Then it adds back in the depreciation and amortization expense, because that's not actual cash. It's more of a book entry. And then change in working capital. And then what falls in cash used for capital and related financing are obviously the capital expenditures that are offset by grant funds. And if we had any loans that offset that would be in there. connection fees, debt service, and lease revenue. So at the end of the period, for fiscal year 26, the agency is financially strong, debt service coverage is 7.42 times, and the minimum reserve requirements are met. I'm going to pause here to see if there's any more questions regarding the fiscal year 26 budget. We'll move on to the 5-year forecast. So while the governing board approves a 1-year budget, we also look closely at the 5-year period. Fiscal year 27 through 30 is a forecast period and may fluctuate based on economic changes, changes in capital, operating, and revenue requirements. So we make some assumptions when we do our 5-year forecast. One is the RBB grants. So the RBB rate structure does not include the USBR Title 16 grant of approximately $9 million. This grant has been awarded. However, the funds have not been appropriated into the federal budget, and the amendment to the current agreement has not been finalized. Once the funds are appropriated and the agreement is finalized, these funds could result in a reduction to the RBB rate structure in the forecast period. And on that note, the rate structure also does not include the 2.5 million STAG grants. Again, those agreements are not yet finalized. Another assumption is inflation. Inflation is assumed at 2.5% during the forecast period using the following indicators. The annual average inflation rate as of December 31st for the CPI and the 20 city construction cost index published by the Engineering News Record. We also use the Survey of Forecasters CPI forecast as of February 10th, 2025. The annual average increase in operating revenues is 13% based on the proposed established rate increases. Annual average increase in operating expenses is 19.4%, with the addition of operating expenses for RBB and an increase in depreciation with the addition of the RBB treatment plant upgrades in fiscal year 29. This shows you operating revenues for BARWA and expenditures for BARWA in the green and blue, and revenues and expenditures for RBB in the orange and yellow. And it shows you that that they do fall in line with each other except for RBB, because we're bringing in revenues to have our reserves in place. In analyzing rates, the agency takes into account operating costs, reserve requirements, and future capital requirements. Fiscal year 26 through 29 RBB rates are set to build reserve requirements so that reserves are in place for debt service requirements, operational needs, and required liquidity and operational reserves. Our top 5 operating expenses over the 5-year forecast account for approximately 82% of all operating expenses. They include salaries and benefits, RBB operating expenses, power, sludge removal, and permits and fees. I just want to let you know CAGR, which is on this slide, means the compound annual growth rate, which is the average annual change. And in salaries and benefits, that's 6%. Due to the RBB pause, the previously added administrative position has been removed for fiscal year 26 and added back in to fiscal year 27. Employee benefits are expected to increase 8% on average. RBB operating expenditures. RBB is anticipated to go online in fiscal year 29. The operating expenses include general operating and maintenance expenses, water monitoring, and the nutrient offset program. These are expected to increase based on CPI annually. Based on expected annual price adjustments to the power purchase agreement and rate increases expected by Bear Valley Electric, we're showing 3% over 5 years for power. Sludge removal again is based on removing just under 5,000 tons. And each year there's an increase to the hauling contract based on CPI. Permits and fees is 8%, The annual average increases are budgeted to be in line with average historical changes.
Question,
Yes, sir,
are these percentages over 5 years or is that annual?
over 5 years.
Over 5 years?
Yes.
So divide that by 5.
Yes.
The other question I have is, increases by Bear Valley Electric with our solar we have. I'm kind of buying the power from the solar company, not necessarily from Bear Valley Electric.
Yeah, so we buy power. We buy power from the solar company. Any excess power is then excess, which we basically create about double what we need from the daytime. Put that back in the system and then we draw it back out at night. So we do pay several different charges for pulling that power back out. And then there's an annual true up. And that helps us determine, that gives us the overall number. I think we pay about, is it about 10 or 12,000 a month, Sonia? To Bear Valley Electric right now. So we buy power, it costs us, somewhere around 30,000 a month for power between buying power and then when we get it back from Bear Valley Electric.
And it's still cheaper than the generators.
Oh, yeah, the generators, I mean, the generators were, the savings is about 108, it was 4 years ago when we did this, the savings were about 180,000 a year doing it this way as opposed to keeping with the generators.
And the generators were cheaper than Bear Valley Electric.
And the generators were much, Bear Valley Electric was running us, I'm gonna say about 50,000 a month on average. If we bought power from them, and then, this was, that was about, I think it was like about $10,000 savings to do the generators. So we're saving quite a bit of money doing it this way.
And the net result at the end of the year, when they bought it or chew it up, what is really charging? What's the average might cost a year with Bear Valley Electric? Because I presume that we're not overproducing.
We're
Maybe
not.
we are.
Yeah,
Do we get a credit?
we had quite a bit of credit, but they haven't turned up for this last year. We can't be sure how it's gonna turn out.
Yeah, they originally, we were supposed to have a true net meter, right? But we were going to pay. It got kind of confusing. We read the contract one way, they read it a different way. They read it actually in our favor, so we've been saving money. And so I think last year, what was it, 18 grand or something like that?
Yeah, it was, when we turned up, it was
18 grand.
year.
We owed them. But that's because,
The service charges monthly, which run $7,000 or $8,000 a month. And then the true up.
right, and part of the issue with the true up was they're not giving us credit for some of the things that we think we should get credit for. But then in the end, it turned out okay, because then later on, they started giving us credit on the bill.
Okay, so you're watching.
We're watching, we're all over it. We're, I think Sonia and I are amazed at some of the things, because we're like, okay, but if you want to do it that way, that's in our favor, so that's fine. We're okay with that, Who are we to say you're wrong? If you want to, save us 30 grand, we're in. So we're watching it closely, but again, it's the devil's in the details of the contract, which we maybe differ in the way that the contract is written, but what they should be doing, but they're doing it in our favor, and I'm happy with that.
Maybe just for you can show me that.
Yeah. Yeah, we could. Sonia and I go, oh,
Doesn't have to be in depth, but just.
oh yeah, well, Sonia has a good explanation, because we've actually written back and forth with Bear Valley Electric, and I'm like, hey, this is the way it's supposed to be done. And they're like, no, basically, yeah, no,
Yeah,
okay. And that's,
there's been some changes of personnel that are handling it. And I think there's a little disconnect, a little lack of understanding. And David knows the rate in and out. But if we get to that point, yeah,
Yeah, if we wanna go argue on it, we can, but I'm fine with the way they're doing it right now because it's saving us money. Yeah. And they seem to be satisfied with their right, and I'm saying, yeah, you are.
Even at CSD, we find that they make adjustments to the bill and then can't explain why they do it.
Right.
I understand, I have solar. Interesting.
But we're not doing solar, it's just standard bills that they'll make it adjustment. And it may take 2 or 3 months to finally figure out that, oh, they made a mistake and now they want more money.
I know, we've had that too. We've had that too.
I think it's been a problem for years. It was out
Yeah, I
of the
think-
city.
because they're supposed to true it up in November. And last year it was February before they did it. And then that involves recomputing all those months and it's,
Well, I noticed
right now, we're fine the way it is.
the monthly distributions that you see $30,000 or $40,000 to the power company plus whatever the neighborhood solar is.
Yeah, yes, and
It's trying to figure out by the end of the year, are we, as far as I can see, we are not generating everything. We still need the power company.
well, that actually depends on the weather, right?
Right. But you also told me at one point that the difference was we have been paying 14 cents a kilowatt and it went down to 11. So we were saving, but we were not generating everything we needed.
We're technically, so we have 1.67 megawatts of power. So depending on how many oxidation inches
What's running?
John decides to run, that affects, how much extra power we generate during the daytime that we can claw back at night. So it really comes down to, sometimes, they don't want to overproduce because, we don't get a real value, there's no value in us overproducing. Right, when it comes to like at the end of the year, it's really, we want to try and hit that right on. So because there's, we're not gonna, they're gonna give us credit, but they don't give us enough credit to make it valuable to us, because we paid more for the excess power than we, from TS Energy than we would getting credit back from Fair Valley. If that makes sense to you. It's not in our interest to overproduce at this point. So we don't, there is, there's, we produce enough power, but just enough power. And, and again, winter conditions or sometimes conditions, make it so we don't produce enough power if there's overcast or snow on them. But they also, PS Energy is required by contract with us to hit a certain production level. Percentages, so 90%, 95% production. And John does, but I don't remember exactly what it is, but they're supposed to hit, the efficiency level is supposed to be that above 90% range. Otherwise, they have to pay us for any overages that we have to pay the electric company. That's in our contract as well. And we had the same problem when I was at the city with solar power, the same, those peaking factors or affect the bills and there's a lot of this stuff that goes on.
At least you're getting credit because new people aren't.
That's correct. New people are not, they no longer have net meter agreements, they no longer issue those. Because obviously, once they hit a certain megawatts, the valley, they stop, they were required by they weren't required to keep giving out those net meters agreements. So. Complicated item.
Any more questions?
Capital expenditures for fiscal year 2030. We have a 5-year capital plan and highlights. We have RBB, the North Shore Pump Station, pretty well. We have asphalt replacement and the outfall line investigation. 5-year CIP totals 87 million, and it does include the projects listed on the slide with an annual average of 17.4 million. Let's move on to debt service. Debt service coverage is expected to be 7.42 times in fiscal year 26, lowering to 1.6 times by fiscal year 2030, still above the 1.2 times minimum coverage set by our debt covenant levels. Debt service payments in fiscal year 26, that includes the 2.4 million for the replenished bigger short-term loan. Let's go down to 1 million in fiscal year 27. And then by the end of fiscal year 2029, it goes up to 4.3 million, and that includes full debt service for the revenue bonds and the Whitfield loan. Partial designated fund balance at the end of fiscal year 2030 is expected to be just under 17 million. So in summary, the agency is financially strong. Reserve funds are adequate, minimum balance requirements are met. Capital expenditures total 87 million with new debt for RBB, cash funding for the remaining capital projects. The agency will make payments in the amount of 100,000 per year, fiscal year 26 through 29, to complete the multi-year plan to contribute 1 million towards the OPEC UAL to reduce the liability. Debt increases over the period. Fiscal year 26, the RBB short-term financing loan is paid in full. Fiscal year 27, the Whitfield loan interest-only payments begin through construction, and the 2011 installment purchase agreement loan fully amortizes. In fiscal year 28, RBB revenue bond payments begin, and fiscal year 29, the Whitfield loan principal and interest payments begin. Again, debt service coverage starts at 7.42 times and decreases to 1.6 times by fiscal year 2030. And that concludes my presentation, and we're open to questions and discussion.
So with the called renewal of our what is it, contract license for discharge.
Okay.
It was the right term. So
It is our discharge permit,
permit. That's in 2026 next year.
2026, that's correct. We'll start in, I think John was telling me 25. We'll start at this next coming year, this year.
We have to send a letter in December. For renewal.
So the question I have then, is there any anticipated changes we're gonna need to make to the plans that might not be part of the capital improvement plan?
Not what I'm hearing at this point.
Okay.
More than likely, they're probably gonna try to lower the TDS again. Which could affect us, but we'll wait on that. They lowered it last time.
TDS,
It's all solids. And we're lowered.
want that reduced.
Well, they did that last time, so we agreed to 500, was 550, so they could take it to 450, but at this point, from my sources at the board, they're not. I haven't heard anything that they're gonna change much, so we have no idea at this time.
And the permit is good for how long?
Right,
The only thing though, they might do some, I wouldn't be surprised if they do some additional testing requirements, like for PFAS or something like that. That wouldn't surprise me if they start to put those additional requirements, because PFAS is obviously becoming an issue in California, and they put new regulation on that water distribution side for PFAS. So I wouldn't be surprised if they start to ask us to monitor for that piece in anticipation of putting regulations on it.
And that's measurable.
It's measurable.
So this parts per billion or million?
Parts per
Million,
million, is it? And
depends on which one it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of it's PPM, some of it's PPB, which is.
PPB, I think is the one that they're, right now they're at for drinking water, they're at PPB. So,
Yes, parts per billion, yes.
And we're looking for, the hexane variety, for trading,
parts per trillion.
Which one?
the hexane, the
You can actually measure down to parts per trillion there.
It's right at the level of detection in terms of, at 3 to 20 is the range that they're looking at in terms of. Okay,
And those sort of tests are not so expensive that it would show up. Capital.
They wouldn't show up just yet, you know, like, we, again, when we get those regulations, they'd probably be implemented with our next year's budget, that we would have to start to accommodate for those, but I would anticipate start to see some of those monitoring for those other constituents, because they are required to bring it down to, is it 19 or 20?
yeah, below 20.
Below 20 for drinking water, and so eventually, because we're putting into a drinking water basin, they'll probably put that same requirement back, you know, on us to bring it down to a certain level where they know that we're not going to affect the drinking water wells in our area. I mean, the other one that we saw, Equal Eye, was a new one for us this last permit round.
Correct, but we got them to switch to fecal because we couldn't test for Ebola.
Nice, so.
So if it's tested and well, say we fail, whatever the number is, then what do we do?
Then we have to put additional treatment facilities in.
Microfiltration, I mean, it's parts per trillion, how do you get that?
Well, no, I mean, this is, you know, then we would automatically go to, right, it would be tertiary with reverse osmosis. Right, that's what, if we got to that point where we were trying to treat for PFAS and we had to get down to the levels that they're putting on drinking water, then we would be putting, you know, it would be PFAS, and it might even be advanced oxidation. I don't. You know,
So we'll see what happens.
Because actually what happened was. about
That'll be a big
Yes,
difference.
2 years ago, we got a letter from the state of California that every wastewater treatment plant in the state of California per million gallons per day had to test for PFAS, like effluent sludge. If you were reverse osmosis, they were the brine testing, wanted everything tested. So you compiled all this data for a year, we had to test for an entire year, we had to test quarterly and sludge just once. So we did all this, and then we haven't heard anything since then. So this is the entire statewide. It had nothing to do with just our certain regions, it was the entire state. Now it appears that they're going after the water side, so it'll come eventually.
it's coming our way. I mean, we've already tested
So
for it.
CSD and DWP are gonna have to be tested. for this.
That's correct.
They already are.
They are, okay.
They already
EPA
are.
is already required. I get these web updates like every day, and their EPA is already looking for PFAS all through the entire nation. They're looking on the drinking water sides and lakes and
So,
rivers and everything.
so they're focusing now on the drinking water side,
That's correct.
but they're focusing on the drinking water side,
It would directly affect.
you know, what's that?
Yes.
Well, it doesn't directly affect us, that's.
Well,
We could remove, we could lower our influence, but, you know, it's still gonna get trapped in sludge anyway. I mean, no matter whatever numbers we get, it's always gonna be collected in sludge anyway. So,
Well, I mean, I guess my question is, if the drinking water is subject to being cleaned up, right? By the time it gets to us, it's supposed to be cleaned up.
well, but we use it at the household and we put it back in.
That's correct.
So you,
And it's.
So you brush your teeth.
Yeah.
You wash your pans.
Yes.
right,
You wash your clothes. PFAS gets back in there, gets delivered to us. Now we're taking it, cleaning it to the level we are right now, and now putting it into a new aquifer
right.
that takes water out of there for their drinking water, and it's just a matter of time then going, oh, you're doing that, you have to clean it to this level. And that's, you know, hence he's already tested for it because of that.
But if we don't get to that point, what happens? We don't get to the point where we're, you know, I mean, if the state goes first, drinks. Right? Doesn't shift.
They already did it,
Flower,
done.
doesn't that shift the responsibility out to the water departments?
And then it shifted already to the water departments, and now it's coming, the next shift is gonna be coming towards people that are putting water into aquifers that.
Right, but we're not there yet, well, no.
No, we're,
I guess
I
my
mean-
question is, who's gonna get hit with this first?
Well, water department already did.
We
Then
have
we
no
te-
idea.
then- and they're already telling us to
Yeah.
test for PFAS. We
Yes.
did that last year.
Yes.
So we're. It's not if, it's wet,
Well, and
and we're talking.
don't we have wells already that see the PFAS levels?
Not, I mean, CSD has. Wells that exceed the PFAS and, I guess they shut down
We're in the notification stage for our levels, but we've had to take a well offline to keep within below that 20 mark for. So once you're over 10, you have to then notify the customers. Once you get over 20, you then have to do remediation measures. And we're keeping it between that 10 and 20 at the moment through our.
Blending,
What's that?
blending the well.
Yeah, we're blending good wells with poor producing wells, and we're looking into PFAS plants that are going to filter the water coming out of the wells and before it goes into the reservoir.
Is that like a reverse osmosis?
Well, it's one of the options as part of our
Ion
engineering
exchange.
design.
Ion exchange or reverse
Yeah, we're
osmosis?
looking at all the options.
Options.
And the main question is, they're just right now it's like PFOS and PFAS, right? Well, there's a chain of PFAS that's its own page.
There's 1,500 of them.
Yeah, so we just don't know, they're starting with like 2, and then they're gonna add a few more, and then we just don't know how long this chain will go.
PFAS stands for phosphorus.
Poly,
So it's sort of plastic.
fluoride, yeah, it's a
So it's not, it doesn't come out of nature in the.
No, it's mainly from Teflon,
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's
There's
used
another
in
major
households.
yes.
Firefighters.
Firefighters, coats, fire hoses, yeah, I mean, PFAS, it's in, dental floss, it's in,
Toilet paper.
toilet paper, it's in, yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you name it, it's in everything.
Deodorant.
My daughter sent me a whole list the other day.
Yeah. It's on our
All the
wax
stuff
on
that
our
it's
skis. Yeah, so I know, it's like, it's in everything.
It is.
Yeah, I mean, if you floss your teeth every day, which I hope everyone does, it's in your dental floss, so you're actually just keep putting it back into your body. If you do your best to literally eliminate it. And then we're not even talking about microplastics yet, so that's be another whole different thing that will come down a bit. It's all coming eventually, and just like the state of California does not have to follow the EPA rules, we basically are independent in so much that we can set our own rules. And they can be more stringent than the EPA, which they generally are. And then the rest of the nation starts to follow how California does things, so. We're just, it's a wait and see. So it could be years, it could be months, but more than likely it's
How's
gonna
it
be
getting
years.
into our drinking water? Right? Because, we're out of the state system. We're just taking it out of.
It's just, it's in the rain, it's in the air,
It's in everything,
it's
yeah.
in everything.
Yeah.
A lot of it comes to the wastewater plant is from, like you said, cleaning your dishes,
I realize
washing your
that.
toilets, and stuff,
But
but.
it's in the
But it
rain,
is
it's
on
in
the
the
water,
air,
yeah.
it's, you step on the brakes, I mean, I mean.
Well, I guess I'm just, trying to figure out how much we're responsible for, and how much the water. is responsible for the valley.
Well, the water companies are gonna be responsible for serving the drinking water that meets the standard, right? That's what they're gonna do. Then when we get it, we're gonna be responsible for removing, eventually we're gonna be removing it to a point where I meet those same standards because we're putting it into a different drinking water base. That's. I mean, you can count on it.
Well, they opened the can of worms when they started with the wastewater plants, and then they were like, wait, oh, really? So,
And it's not just ours, right?
Yeah.
Like, everybody, this is the entire state of
there was
California,
like 300 plants.
One size fits all.
Yeah.
Something for that.
Yeah.
right? And we're gonna all be asked to fit in this box. And
So in the future, we shouldn't be shocked.
don't be shocked.
Whoever's sitting around this table,
Whoever's sitting around this table,
don't be shocked.
I'm never shocked.
This day, like Dave says, it's not a matter of if it's when.
A lot of stuff's changed in 32 years. A lot.
Yes,
or did you have a question?
in the packet,
Yes, sir.
initially it talks about the potential for the rates to be reduced by 2030. But then by the end of the report, talking about an aggressive CIP program of up to 20 million a year. Which would create shortfalls, not enough income, not enough revenue. And so talking about borrowing. First, we say we can reduce, and then by the end of the report, we can't.
So it talks about the 20-year CIP, and it really depends on the projects and when those projects are going to be done. And as we get closer, we're gonna have to take a look at that, yes. But through 2030, the rates are sufficient
For now,
for now. Yes, the rates are sufficient. Depending on what the economy does, there's so many factors past that, and even in the 5 years. Forecast, there's so many factors that could have an impact in the next 5 years. So we're basically doing our best estimate based on forecasters to see where we're gonna end up. And we do know as an agency that some of these projects that may be coming down the line, we may have to borrow for. And when you have a $10 million project, a lot of people, you don't wanna get those rates ahead of time.
Right.
Because you have generational equity, right? Generational equity.
Right.
You want the people who are using it during the life, like getting the advantage of the asset to help pay for the life of the asset. So that's why you get loans on these larger projects.
we were also talking about 2.5% increase cost of living. But then later, I talked about trying to keep the rate increases close to cost of living increases, don't go crazy. But then we don't talk about 19% increases in expenses.
Yes, so you've got
How
to,
do you reconcile
yes.
0.5 versus 19?
So you've got to realize that 19% includes replenished bigger coming online, which is about $3 million a year. So that is going to make that much higher for the 5-year period. But once you have those for years, we're looking at that increasing by CPI each year. But you have, for the first 3 years, you don't have replenished bigger, 4 years, 3 years, you don't have replenished bigger in there. And then you have this large jump of 3 million. That's why you have the 19.4 over the 5 years. That's why it explains in there that because of the replenished big bear, the addition of replenished big bear wasn't there. You're looking at, I'm proposing 2.5 a year.
But the 3 million is not going to be once, it's going to be every year thereafter.
After that, yes, but when you're looking at the 5 years, it skews it.
All right, and if you look at the year-to-year adjustment after the Reliance Big Bear project comes online, the year should be in that 2.5 to 3 range. I mean, we've been doing this for quite a few years where it was that way, right? Where we're sitting there very close to CPI adjustment on a yearly basis without this project in place.
And you're also talking about $150,000 for a dump truck. Are we talking a used truck?
Did you say a used truck?
Yeah. That only 150 grand just doesn't sound like it's enough for a dump truck.
No, I actually did do some research on that. It is not a full-size dump truck. It's
F-650.
an F-650 with
or
a dump bed.
F-600, yes. Under gross vehicle weight 26,000 pounds.
And that's for use here?
Yes.
Or to and from the dump, because it was.
We might also take it to the dump, correct,
Transfer
yes.
station.
Yes, but it has to be under 26,000 gross vehicle weight or and then a commercial driver's license class B or higher, so. We're gonna keep it under a certain weight with aluminum bed. The load, the sludge, and the scum that we haul down to the Barstow ourselves, to save us a fortune of money. So we'll be using that truck for that.
Do you remember how much yard it is? It's small, right?
It's not very big,
Yeah,
but you have to put aluminum bed on to make the GDW below 26,000, so if it's 25,999, I'm good, so.
that was the other question is. Are we contracting alcohol, or are we hauling it ourselves, and then how far? And
The
what's
scum?
difference? Whatever you're hauling.
Well, the scum is what we haul to Barstow, the sludge is hauled by Senegal. The trash is taken to the transfer station, the rags are taken to the transfer station, we just use our little trailer and take it over there. Currently, we use our trailer to haul,
But is that as far as we go, or are we actually hauling it down the hill?
we take scum to Barstow. save the agency about 15,000 a year to do that.
Yeah, we
We do it ourselves.
yeah, we got an estimate.
It was $25,000 a year and I'm paying approximately 12,000 a year to haul it ourselves.
That's why we decided to haul it ourselves, because it was like
And the dump truck will help. with that.
stupid expensive to haul.
Yes,
We didn't understand why.
and that was for one scum bin.
And we do both, right?
Well, we do one a year, try to. And so we can. It's all based on flow. My whole life is based on flow.
Flow is me, flow is
Flow is me, yeah, really, literally.
Anybody else, questions?
Here, just to point out the rate structure in this presentation is what we'll be bringing back in March.
And the budget.
And the budget, it's good kind of reiterate, so that's what we'll be bringing back, and obviously. You know, we put something forward less than what we proposed last year. So those are like, I think the city put a 5-year in. You know, it will still, they won't have to reissue their Prop 218. Because it is less than what we originally proposed, and that less than is because. You know, the Replenish Big Bear project was delayed, and we can actually implement our rate structure at a slower pace. Based on that, so I just wanted to reiterate that that's why we're proposing something different, is really something less. Than we were originally proposing, and really because of the pause that we've been hit with the Replenish Big Bear project.
Marwood doesn't do a 218 because they rely on the city and the CSD to do it.
Yeah, we're a JPA, right? So we don't have that, we don't have the direct contact with the, with the property owners. It's indirect through the member agencies, and the member agencies do their own Prop 218 for implementation of the rate structure. So. Yeah, I think it's a very good, proposal to put forward to the board, and hopefully, like I said, we'll bring them forward in March for adoption. Anybody else have any questions about that specifically?
Does that change anything, being that the city did it for 5 and CSD does it every year, right? So does that?
So they'll have to go out to another Prop 218 for this new rate structure. Obviously, it would be less than one, but I don't know if they included as future in their. They would. They just did it
every year anyway. 'cause
Okay,
they change
so.
Water and sewer.
So they'll do a Prop 218. The city will not have to do another Prop 218 because they already had originally proposed, I think it was an 18, and this year it's an 8.2. So 8.6.
It's a 6.
Oh, 6 total, I'm sorry. 6 overall. There you go. So it's a 6 overall, so they won't have to do anything about. They won't have to republish a Prop 218 for that specific act. Yeah. If they have to do something for their own rate structure, for their own collection systems or trash or whatever else, we'll still do those. Same, yes. But not for borrowers rates. So.
Is public now allowed to ask additional questions, or are they done?
That's a.
They would be done unless you decide to do something. It's the check.
Something that, I guess that's something that Jared,
Just asking, since now they've heard the presentation, that could create new questions.
yeah, that's up to the chair. So.
We have 2 public speakers here. Do either one of you have anything else that you want to add?
Sure.
Constructive criticism.
One second.
Good job, Larry.
But I also don't hear later that they weren't allowed to speak. Well, maybe I should clarify that. Yes, this is specific to the budget,
The
right?
budget. We're talking about the budget.
Yeah, it has to be about the budget.
But money,
Yes, the proposed budget, yes.
yeah,
Yes.
since you have $222,000 for toilet to tap, what does that include, or how do you get that expense?
I have no idea. Are you?
I can answer
Are you
that
gonna-
question.
Take us to a page?
Yeah, what page?
252,000, is that the number?
I'm just, yeah, I'm trying to find a page, because there's so many,
You're looking at this?
Christine's got it. I can answer that question. The 200 is 253.
Yes.
It's on page 40. No, not page 44. It's on page. It's in the 2026. Anyways, the 253,000 is to complete the final design and the cost estimate that the board approved, the governing board approved at the last meeting.
sorry, I can't hear.
To complete the final design and the cost estimate.
It's just for the cost estimate.
The final design,
And are you using BBK on this to do any of the expenditures on this?
33.
well, BB&K is the agency's attorney, but the engineer that is working on the final design is WSC.
Right.
As long as that's supposed to take.
Right now, I think the original last estimate that we got was 18 months for final design. But we haven't got a new schedule from them. They believe that they can expedite the design work. And I just haven't got a new, is it 18 months or 14 months? 18.
Is this on grant or is it coming out of everybody's back pocket here?
It's grant reimbursable.
It's what?
It's grant reimbursable, yes.
It's grant.
Yeah, which again is, so piggybacking on the fact, what we approved last week at our meeting, is that to get it to final design, it's going to be reimbursed through grant money.
Eventually.
Right, but if it doesn't go through. It still have to be paid if it doesn't go through, or is it granted already?
As long as we get the project to design,
To
we have a product that we produced, so it will be paid for through grants.
the, and then,
Which is still waiting on the job.
Don't help, Larry, don't.
Don't help.
when, the time's up.
Your time's up. There you go, Larry.
And then, this format's great, but it's up on the screen, but all I can hear are pages flipping.
We're trying
you
to
guys
follow
worry
along with
about
it.
It just seems kind of annoying. But I don't really care for this, for ease. It's fine up on the screen, but maybe you guys like it. I don't know, it's kind of pretty. Thank you.
There's my. I just wanna know. I don't need this thing on. I just wanna know if any of you read the beautiful article that we recently wrote about Omeralty and what he said about the budget. And about what he said about money, and about what he said about we're not gonna spend any more money. Did any of you read that article? It's an excellent article that they put in their statement. Or is it just a bunch of lies? Anyway, that's what I have to say. Thanks.
Anybody else have anything that they want to ask?
Yeah, that's great. That's it. I really appreciate it.
Thank you all the good day today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
When we do the final presentation. Did you,
I'm sorry?
when we do the next meeting, did you put the numbers on the last pages?
Oh,
Stops at 33,
sorry about that.
because, when
Because
people
those
bring
were-
applications.
Oh, it's the attachments that aren't numbered. So, okay, so this is a document. And then the attachments, I see what you're saying, but the attachments were actually what the board is going to get through maybe at the next meeting. So it's not part of the document,
It'll be part of the.
it'll be part of the resolution.
So we'll
That's why there's-
go through it, said it was 30 pages, so I was.
Got
going
it,
through and was like,
okay.
Wait a minute, I don't have that many pages.
Yeah, it's gonna be part of the resolution, so we wanted to make sure that what you had in front of you is what you'd be approving in the actual,
Info.
yes. Just detail, more detail for you.
Yes, sorry about that.
Maybe it later.
Thank you. Oh, meeting is adjourned.